Gentlemen, your target for tonight is Essen, specifically the factories and railway yards in the northwest of the city. Your aircraft are loaded with 16 250-pound high-explosive bombs to deal with these targets. Weather is hazy, with cloud above 5,000 feet. Winds are moderate from the south. Expect flak over any population center or airfield in enemy territory, and especially over the target and in the Ruhr. Good luck. Welcome aboard my Lancaster. I am just going to go straight into starting engines here, and then I'll explain a little bit more about what's going on here. So, turning over engine number 1. So basically, the channel ticked over 1,000 subscribers recently. Thank you so much to everyone for that. Didn't really think I'd get to that number, but who knows? Onwards and upwards. We'll see how it does going forward. Anyway, in honor of the occasion, I thought I should do something special. And special, in my mind, seems to map pretty directly onto long-distance bombing raids. I've done a couple in the B-17. Whoops. In the B-17 before, so I thought this time I would feature the Lancaster. Now, for those of you who are a bit new to the IL-2 1946 modding scene, and why aren't you starting? Anyway, for those of you who are a bit new to the IL-2 1946 modding scene and are saying, how the hell is he flying a Lancaster? I am using the B.A.T mod, version 4.0, specifically the Red Core, which is a slightly stripped down version with just the World War II stuff. Which does, in fact, include many new flyable aircraft, including the Lancaster you see here. And now the mission we're flying today, the raid on Essen, is from a static campaign called Lancaster Tour of Duty, which is a historical campaign, I believe, based around the early Lancaster missions flown by number 40 Squadron, which were the first to use it operationally in sort of very early 1942. Yeah, now we're started. Okay, now you get to see how bad I am at taxiing the Lancasters. The runway's just behind us there where that fella's taking off, so we'll head that way. Stand on the rudder and brakes. Differential brakes may or may not be enough. It does actually appear to be enough. Anyway, where was I talking about the mission? Oh yeah, it's currently March of 1942, which is a bit of a transitional period for Bomber Command, where they're transiting from basically trying and largely failing, it must be said, to hit precision targets at night towards area bombing. As such, we have been given something like a precision target, basically just the industrial area in the northwest of Essen generally. And we're going to try to hit it. Cloud cover is not terrible, so our navigation should be okay. Despite the fact that the system isn't quite in service yet, we are going to get periodic callouts from the navigator giving us our grid on the map, which will be G-fixes, so the first of the RAF's radio navigation systems, which allowed crews to pinpoint pretty well what their position was to within a certain margin of error. Anyway, we're lined up for takeoff. I'll make sure the flaps are set, which they are. Radiators are open. Mixture 100%, which is auto-rich, or just automatic in general. I think it's the only setting apart from the 120, which is presumably like emergency full rich. Anyway, I think we're just about ready to go here, so set takeoff power and try to keep it on the runway. The ground handling of the Lancaster is quite tricky, it must be said. So I'm only going to push it up as far as I can still retain control. Because I think we... actually, I'm not sure what the wind situation is. But, like, I'm still having to press the right toe brake and I'm at full right rudder here just to keep us on the runway, is the situation. But she handles quite nicely once she's in the air. Anyway, more than fast enough, so lift off. Gear up. And we should be able to bring the flaps up right away. We're pretty fast. Whoa, he says, and then she immediately sinks. Oh. Okay, ignore what I said there. Anyway, I've actually got a little set of pilot's notes for the Lancaster, which I pulled directly from the manual for the real aircraft. So we'll dial back to climb power, which is 9 pounds of boost. Come on, throttle back. Why isn't my throttle going? 9 pounds of boost. Engine selected. See, there's that G-fix. Okay. I guess I'll use this for power. Throttle back to 85% throttle, which is 9 pounds of boost, and RPM comes back to 2850. There, now my throttle's responding. Not sure what that was about. Which is about 85% and 85% on both for climb power. Actually, that's not quite 2850 RPM. Try 90%, that might be more like it. So yeah, that's our climb power setting, which is rated for 1 hour. So we'll probably use it to climb to altitude. Now for navigation, we've just taken off and are flying runway heading this way. Our first sort of port of call is the town of North Hicum. I don't know for sure how to pronounce that. We're in the north-ish of England, so seems like anything goes with the naming conventions. I'm just a Canadian from across the sea. I don't understand them all quite so much, and I believe that's the town over there. So we'll aim to pass directly over it and pick up a heading of 169 as we do, and then try and spot Seaford, which is pretty much our set heading point for the climb, because we're going to climb a ways to the southeast, and then over Ipswich we turn east out over the Channel, head towards the Netherlands, ideally crossing the coast just north of Rotterdam, and then we go slightly east by southeast until we reach this river, follow it east to just short of Arnhem and where it joins up with the Rhine. I don't know what this river is called, unless it is also part of the Rhine. I don't think it is, though. And then head, again, east by southeast, pretty much following the Rhine to Essen. And then a much more northerly route out, back through the Netherlands, then west back, and all that. Back to Lincolnshire, from which we came. So that's pretty much the plan. I'll continue to climb, and try and get on our heading as we go up. Right, I do believe that town down there is Seaford, as you can see on the map. And, oh, we've just got a G-fix, which puts our position as AB34, so yeah, that should definitely be it. And as we pass over it, we want to take a heading of, well, track over the ground anyway, of 134. We'll probably have to correct for some wind drift, which I'm going to show how we're going to do just now, because I'm going to level off as we pass over it. On a heading of 134, engage the level stabilizer, which is, if you're familiar with IL-2 Great Battles, it's a little bit like the level autopilot, except it only maintains altitude and wings level. It doesn't maintain heading, which means we have to correct for heading using the rudder trim, which you're always going slightly right or left. It's extremely tedious. It's like three-dimensional desert bus flying these routes, but anyway, I'm going to pop into the bomb site, point it straight down, which it already is, pick an object on the ground and try to keep it on the line to figure out what our drift is. That seems to be tracking it pretty good, so we appear to be drifting approximately 14 degrees to port, which means we need to correct 14 to starboard as we climb, so for a magnetic track over the ground of 134, we'll need to take up a heading of 148. I'll just write that down so that it's in front of me. I tend to keep a bit of a nav log and some notes on a piece of paper in front of me for trips like this. In part, I like to write these headings down because if you zoom out on the map, you can't see them anymore. Anyway, I'm going to go back up to climb power, and we'll resume our climb. I'm going to probably climb to at least 20,000 feet, but basically as high as the aircraft wants to go. We've still got a long way to go to climb while we're still over England, so we can be pretty sedate about that. Anyway, I will carry on. Welcome back. It's getting pretty properly dark now, so we are going to... nice and moody. Put the night lights on in the cockpit. We're just shy of 22,000 feet in level for now. I might climb a little bit later as we get lighter. Now, if you see those little bits of water snaking inland up there, those should be these two up here, and Ipswich, which is near enough our set heading point, is just on the end of that north one on the left there, not to be confused for the skinny little snaky one over there. So we should be able to get a very positive fix, and hopefully a nice corrected heading based on drift before we get out over the water and can cross the Dutch coast where we intend to. That's always a little bit of a gamble, but we'll see how that goes. Right, we appear to be genuinely directly over Ipswich now. So as we pass over it, oh, and we've got a G-fix, AM 24, yeah, that puts us in just about the right spot. So as we pass over it, our track over the ground is going to be due east. We're probably going to correct preliminarily 10 degrees to starboard because the wind's out of the south, and take up a corrected heading of 100. Then I'm going to jump down into the bomb site again and try to come up with a corrected heading based on observed drift. So, gentle left turn. And now our heading indicator is this rather low resolution tape down here, which, well, being in the sort of old float compass style, the tape moves right as we turn left, which discombobulates my brain quite readily, so if I haven't already, I probably will say that we're turning left when we're actually turning right at some point. Now, level stabilizer's on. I'll get us coordinated with the rudder trim, and just use minute adjustments to the rudder trim to keep us on heading as we go. Anyway, down into the bomb site. Sometimes the reticle takes a little bit to pop in, not sure why. There it goes. So pick an object on the ground, keep it on the line. Now there's some leftward drift there. That might be too much. This gets harder to do when it's dark, obviously. But yeah, I think corrected heading of... Nah, 15's too much. I think it is about 14 degrees, so... Let's see. 090 plus 14, our corrected heading over the water will be 104. So I'll make a very slight right turn, steady up on 104, and we'll see how accurate that turns out to be. Well, we'll judge how accurate that was based on whether or not we cross the Dutch coast where we think we're going to, which, well, we'll proceed on track and see where we do cross it. So, one potential peril of night operations is that YouTube tends to compress the darkness to buggery, so you might not be able to see as well as I can. But assuming you can, that appears to be the Dutch coast down there. And so we've got some straight coastline with no waterways on our port side. And out to our starboard side, oh, I can't see very well through these bars on the turret, but I'm pretty sure that's the entrance to Rotterdam Harbor. G-fixes have always put us in these 23 grids here, so we should be approximately on track and crossing the Dutch coast where we intended to. So, just about now, actually, we've got a turn coming up. Our track will be 105, and assuming we have the same drift correction as we did before, that'll mean our preliminary corrected heading will be 119. But of course, once we make landfall, I'll jump into the bomb site and try to figure out if we have a new drift component. But anyway, since that turn point is just short of the coast, I think we're good to make that turn now. So I'll make it very shallowly, but we'll come right to 119er. As you can see on the tape down there. Now there is a bit of a lag to it, which means I may overshoot the turn very slightly. There we go. And actually, since we have a very positive fix on our position right now, I'm going to climb a little bit because we've burned some fuel. It'll be lighter. We should be able to cruise at a higher altitude without any difficulty. So I'll do a little burst of climb here, then we'll level off, figure out our drift, and resume navigation. I'd like to get up to 25,000. That should minimize the risk from flak pretty well. But anyway, I'll climb at 1,000 feet a minute, which is nice and manageable. Maintaining heading. Now, a little oddity. I have realistic navigation turned on. We're running on basically full realism with the exception of a few quality of life items like external views. But I'm pretty sure the airspeed indicator is actually displaying displaying true airspeed rather than indicated. So it's probably a little higher than I'm expecting, which is a bit of a problem actually, because my notes, which I took from the real Lancaster manual, assume that we're going by indicated airspeed, but it's not that big of a deal. Okay, we've got a G-fix at BH23, so we should still be on track. And she doesn't seem to want to climb much more than this, so I'll actually level off here for now. Let the speed come back up, and then dial the power back to cruise. Just a slight correction to get back on our corrected heading. 22,500 might have to be good enough for now. But that's kind of okay. It's not really a problem, so. Cruise power in the Lancaster. Now, maximum continuous is 7 pounds of boost, but the recommendation for best economy, or actually, no, not best economy, for best range, which is a different thing. Well, sort of. The figures you generally go by are range and endurance, so longest distance and longest time in the air, which are different speeds. You generally go slower for most endurance, but anyway. Best range, the recommendation is to set 4 pounds of boost and dial the RPM back until you reach, what does it say in my notes here? 160 miles an hour indicated, but we're going to go a little faster than that because otherwise I'll be here all night and we have plenty of fuel. Before I was using 4 pounds of boost and 2,500 RPM, and as long as the level stabilizer can keep us level at that setting, I'll continue to run it. I may dial it back slightly as we go, but I think that's a pretty good setting to use. Which is just about there. Nudge that up a little bit to get our 4 pounds boost. Anyway, let's have a look around here. So yeah, we've got the big sort of waterway around Rotterdam, and we want to meet up with this river that flows east from it here. I don't know what the river's called. Anyone in the audience who's Dutch will probably know. Anyway, we want to link up with that and basically follow it east to just shy of Arnhem and to where it joins up with the Rhine. So, not a tremendously long leg. And the city of Rotterdam should be down there somewhere. And this is a bit of an interesting thing to take note of as well, because I've flown a fair bit at night in real life. And, well, under peacetime conditions, one of the most visible landmarks at night are lit-up towns and cities, but of course this is wartime, so the cities and towns are blacked out. They're very hard to see. So the most visible things for us are actually going to be the waterways, which we've already been able to spot. Anyway, I think our drift vector remains pretty much unchanged from what I can see through the sight there, so I think we'll just carry on with that and keep going until we spot the river. Okay, we've got another turn coming up here. We do want to stay just north of this part of the river. So, assuming the same drift correction as before, our track is 089, so our corrected heading is 103. So, we'll roll out on that heading. So, 103. That should be about right. There we go, and level off. Still maintaining 22,500 feet. I'd like to be a little higher over the target. We'll see. This might actually be the time to do a climb like that because we have a super positive visual reference to navigate by. But anyway, if I jump back down, here, because just the view from the sort of navigator bomb aimer's position is much better, so I've been doing a lot of my navigating from down here. And the sight here is a little bit magnified, which also makes it pretty helpful. But anyway, we'll keep, yeah, so we've got this curve in the river here, where we should directly overfly it. So, yeah, I don't know how much of this will be visible on YouTube in the end, but I assure you I can see this in front of us. So we're pretty much on track over the river, so we're going to carry on east for just a little bit till we hit Arnhem. Well, just shy of it, really, but you know what I mean. Right. So, we've flown into a bit of a layer of high cirrostratus or something, so we've got this haze blowing around, which is making navigation a bit tricky. But I do believe we're coming up on our next turn point here. Arnhem should be down there somewhere, but I've just been trying to go by the curves and the forested areas by the river, and I think we're pretty much passing over about here right now. So once we pass over that point, our new heading is 123, which, going by our previous drift correction, let's see, our corrected heading will be 137. And of course I'll try and grab a new drift figure once we make the turn. Whoops. I meant to close the map, not open the bomb bay door. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going to get anything all that more positive here as to our position, so I think I'll just make the turn now. So, come right to 137. I've been maintaining altitude for now, although now we're dropping a bit, because I did climb a bit, and the haze just got worse, which made it harder to navigate, so... Whoops, I blew through our heading. I'm gonna stick to 22.5 for now. Oh, the rudder's massively out of trim. Okay, that's the problem. 137... There. And level off at 22,500. And... get that. Rudder trim centered. There we go. Okay, so that's our new heading. Can I see anything down there? Not really. Should I be able to see anything down there? Yes, actually. I should be able to see the point where these rivers join up and that sort of becomes the Rhine. Well, in the absence of any super obvious landmarks, let's see if we're drifting at all. No, I think that 14 degrees is still approximately correct, which is interesting, but I'm sure it's slightly off because we've been changing heading. The wind is presumably from the same direction, although maybe not. Yeah, it's getting so dark that it's almost hard to see where the river is even, but I think I can just about pick it out. Starting to get a little bit more cloud, too, more than there was over England or over the Channel. We are heading into the Ruhr, so that area is infamously foggy and cloudy at night. So that's probably realistic. Anyway, we'll just have to see if I can find Essen. We're not actually super far from it now. Well, a landmark. I do believe I see a runway down there. I do indeed. Now that should be this Jerry airfield right down here. We're pretty much just sort of snaking alongside the Rhine here. We appear to be on track and getting relatively close to the target. Now, if I pop up into the turret... Ooh, the night mode on the map turns off. I'm not sure I can quite spot where we've got this whole confluence of waterways here, but there's a very distinctive bend and this sort of snaky bit of stuff here beyond Essen, so hopefully we'll be able to pick out the city based on that. 1 minute to target. Yeah, that's not us, that's someone else. Because we are all by ourselves up here. That was how Bomber Command did things, was each aircraft self-navigated to its target, more or less. There was no formation. Though there would be a stream, everyone would be given such a flight plan to well, so that the stream would pass over specific areas and saturate the German defenses at certain spots, that kind of thing. And later on, of course, the Pathfinder Force got involved and started laying flares and target indicators to help with navigation to the target, but, yeah. 5 minutes to target. You know, we might not be much more than 5 minutes from target. I'm actually gonna run the sight out and see what I can see. I don't think I'll be able to spot Essen yet, though, if I had to guess. If only in part because this giant nose section thingy is in the way. But we should be crossing over to the east side of the... Oh, we just got a G-fix. BX19. Which is this square, and yeah, that should be where we are, so we're still on track. And I should be able to spot Oberhausen before Essen. So I'll have to be careful that I don't bomb it by mistake, for all the difference it makes, on the way in. But yeah, we're getting pretty close to the target, and hopefully we should be able to spot it. Alright, welcome back. I'm pretty sure that that Jerry airfield down there, the only one it could be, actually, is Mulheim airfield. So Essen should be beyond and to the left of it. Now, I can't really pick up anything all that city-shaped just yet. What about this wooded area by Oberhausen? Yeah, you know, it's getting a little dark for terrain features to be super visible. Let's have a look in the sight. Yeah, that's still not super duper clear. I mean, I kind of expect to see searchlights as we get close to the target, but who knows? Maybe they're going with just a straight up blackout rather than actually trying to... I don't know. We'll see. Hop back up in the cockpit and make sure we're still on our correct heading. Oh, we're not actually quite. Come right very slightly. Yeah, we might actually be approaching target now, so that's something. But I'll wheel over towards 137 is our corrected heading. I'll pop the bomb bay doors open, how about, just in case the target kind of appears out of nowhere. I've already dialed the necessary altitude and speed figures into the site, so... yeah. Actually, we've dropped a bit in altitude, so 22,350 feet. Oops, good thing I caught that. And true airspeed, and this indicator seems to have both, yeah. 220 miles an hour. So, yeah, with that airfield there, Essen should really be pretty close. But I really cannot see very much. Okay, BZ-17. Yeah, so we should be almost over Oberhausen now. In fact, we should be directly over it if we're not quite abeam this field yet. So Essen should be down there. Oh, I can see the river. That's actually a really good thing, because I can see the bend in the river. Essen will be a bit to the right of that. Assuming that's really it. We may be engaged in something really much more like area bombing tonight. Jeez. Blacked outs. Oh! Oh my goodness. Okay, well that's an industrial area. That's good enough, frankly. And it's got searchlights coming on. That is an industrial area. It's definitely in Essen. Automation on. Adjust speed to track a point on the ground. That way it's sort of back calculating our ground speed. Just aim for the center and be ready and hope we don't get coned by searchlights. What do we do once the bombs are away? Okay, so we turn left and our track on the egress is 321. Okay, bombs gone! I set a pretty long interval between releases, so I'll wait until I'm quite sure that they're all away. And now in Bomber Command, you did have to fly straight and level over the target until the bombs impacted, so that you could have the camera footage of the impact, so we're going to have to do that, even if we get coned by the searchlights. Otherwise, your authority didn't count towards your total, and we certainly can't have that. Ooh, and there they are. There go the bombs, and we're coned by searchlights. Okay. Well, throttle up for a little while. Let's get the hell out of here. I think the searchlights have actually lost us, so that's fine. I'll head sort of east-northeast vaguely for a bit on 060, and then we'll take that corrected heading. That's not a... Is that searchlight, or is that just random reflection on the canopy? That's searchlight. Okay, shut the bomb bay doors, you muppet. Well, I'm definitely not going to fly straight and level whilst we're coned by searchlights, because that would be a great way for us to get killed by flak. So I'll change my altitude and heading every few seconds until the searchlights lose us. I'll power back slightly, though. Don't lose too much altitude, because then we're even more vulnerable to the flak. Okay, I think the searchlights have lost us, so... Track of 321. I'll just turn to a heading of 321 now, and then we'll try and get our drift figured out as we go, but we're in a slightly more tactical state of mind here than one requiring accurate navigation, so... Okay, maintain at least 22,000. Yeah, the searchlights have definitely lost us, so that's fine. 22,000. Whoa, I say that. No, I think we're good. Okay. Yeah, I think we're okay. So, level off, steady up on a heading of 321. Just adjust over to that with rudder trim. I'll leave a little bit more power in right now, just so that we get away from Essen relatively quickly, because it is a sort of maximum danger area. Ooh, and yep, we've definitely got some drift correction to do. It's hard to tell just from trees, but very preliminarily, I think we're drifting approximately 10 degrees to starboard, so I'll correct to a preliminary corrected heading of 311. I'll level out on that. Is that a searchlight? Sometimes you just get weird reflections with haze in the cockpit, so it's not always a searchlight that's doing that, but yeah, I don't think it is. Okay. Oh, that's actually helpful. Charlie Alpha 18. Okay, I'll make a note of that, and I'll check the map in just a second once we're established. Come on, trim it out. There we go. Okay, 311. CA 18. Yeah, so that's this square, so we're approximately on a return track. First visible landmark will be a long way off. It'll be this river here. So I'm just going to have to keep my head in the sight and try to come up with a good drift correction as we go, because it's going to be pretty much dead reckoning from here to the water. Anyway, I'll probably come back when we get there unless something else happens. Well, well, well. Once again, I have no idea how visible any of this is going to be in YouTube vision. You can see that we're crossing a river here, well, if you can see it, which is this right here, and there's the one branching out this way, which means we're probably very slightly right of track, if I had to guess. We've been drifting further than my calculation suggested based on the G-fixes we've been getting. But anyway, we are pretty close to being out over the water, or at least this body of water here. My European geography isn't encyclopedic. I don't know what it's called. Oh boy. In an effort to maintain friendly diplomatic relations with the Dutch, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. But once we reach a sort of narrow point of it, we have a turn point. But that's not for a while yet, so... yeah, just a little status update on where we are. I'm not completely lost, which is almost surprising. Well, I mean, I say that. It's, there isn't too much cloud, so navigating has actually not been very difficult. If we had more cloud cover, as is typical of Europe, frankly, for a lot of the year, as I understand it, it could be a lot harder, and I can absolutely see why... Ooh! Who's this? Those are some other Lancasters that I hadn't even spotted before. Interesting. Well, once again, we're self-navigating, so I only have to be concerned about them insofar as I need to not collide with them. But yeah, as I was saying, I can see absolutely why, especially before the radio navigation aids like G and Obo came in, that aircraft got horribly, horribly lost and missed their targets by whole countries in some cases. It's, yeah. Because at that point you're down to dead reckoning, and if you don't have accurate wind data, that's just not going to be accurate. Okay, we've got a G-fix at BR 28. So actually we should be pretty close to back on track. Okay, well, I mean, I have pretty good visual reference points now that we're over the water, so I should be able to figure out where to make the turn. Right, back again. I do believe that this coastline we can see down here is this little thing here, which means we're over our turn point. Our track is 270, so due west. And because of the, just based on the wind correction that I did before, I'm going to assume that we require a 15-degree correction to port to maintain that track. So I'm going to take up a corrected heading of 255. And then once we're over land, I'll hop into the bomb site and see if I can figure out what our actual drift factor is a little bit more precisely. Whoa! And with all my... Oh, no, actually, that is 255. Whoops. I was going to say with all my gapping, I overshot it, but actually... Actually, no, that's 240. The low-res heading indicator is sometimes very slightly difficult to read. Anyway, 26, yeah. Okay, 255. Whoops. There, level off. And are we over the land yet? Whoops. No. Okay, well, you've seen me do quite a bit of drift estimation in the bomb site already. That might be getting slightly tedious, so I might just do that myself as we navigate back. Now, that heading, yeah, and I want to make sure I get it right, because that's the heading that's taking us all the way back over to England. I'll just have to make sure we make landfall in roughly the right spot. Once we find the coastline, it's really just a matter of following it up to this very obvious estuary here, then probably west to the river, and we should be able to find the field from there, so. At Scampton, so. That's our plan to get home. We've still got a ways to go, but hopefully the worst is behind us. Oh, I'm way too superstitious of a person to say that. Oh dear, oh dear. Right. So that is the English coast down there. And based on the G fixes that I've been getting, we've consistently been in these 33 grids, or at least I managed to correct onto them. We did drift south a little bit, but I managed to get back on. So we should be passing more or less over the part of it that we should, but the coastline is very distinct from here on up, so I should be able to navigate by pretty much pure pilotage, aka reference to features on the ground, to find our way back to base. So I may omit a fair amount of that just because it won't be quite as interesting, and I already pretty much outlined what the plan is, but let's see what we can see of it anyway. So up in the turret, the view below is kind of obscured, but anyway, you can see the coastline sort of arcing up, actually no, arcing up this way. So we're pretty much just going to follow it again to this estuary here, and pretty much back to base. Right. See that bend in the river up there where we've got this long straight line and then it bends slightly to the west? That should be roughly where home base is, so I should be able to find it easily enough from here. I've just basically turned west-southwest from the estuary there. And we have started descending. We're coming down through 13,000 feet now. The supercharger switching in this is automatic. It goes over at about 11,000 feet, I think, so that's not something I have to worry about so much. But I'll wind the RPM back a little bit. We don't want to over-rev the engines. But anyway, that's just a little update. We're still a little ways out, so back in a jiffy. So as you can probably hear from all this radio chatter, there are some other aircraft in the circuit around the field. So I might just have to... Oh yeah, and there they are. So I might just have to circle it for a while and wait for them to actually land before we go in. Push props up a little bit. Give us a nice cruise setting if we might have to circle for a while. Now that we're this close to home, I'll put our landing and navigation lights on just so that there's no risk of any dodginess happening. You know, I might be lazy enough to actually try and cut in the circuit and sneak in ahead of them. But anyway, that's the field over there. You should be able to see it. You know what? Just so that I get in the queue, why don't I ask for landing clearance now? Huh, they gave it to me. Okay, well, I won't ask any questions about that. And they've got the runway lights on. Those are just kind of coming into view now, I guess. Okay. That should be us good to land then. I will keep my eyes open for traffic, because a collision in the circuit would totally suck. But there you go. Power back a bit, let that speed come back. Radiator's open a little bit, just in case the engines get a little toasty. Gear down. Flaps for takeoff. I'll put them to the landing setting once we're rolled out onto final. And because, once again, I'm not super trusting of the airspeed indications, we're going to run a slightly higher speed than is probably recommended. I mean, the manual says to approach at 120, but things seems to stall at anything below 160 by what's shown on here, so I'm really just going to do this by feel. I'll put in some tail-heavy trim and then just adjust to maintain whatever. Prop full forward, mixture, auto-rich. We're a little high, but it doesn't matter too much. It's a very long runway, fortunately. And yeah, the trim indicator, if I put in a little more tail-heavy trim, let's see what she does. But I don't mind maintaining about 160, to be honest. Especially since it seems to be a little bit turbulent. The airspeed indicator is skipping around a little. I don't know if they're talking to me or not. Honestly, I'm not sure I care enough to heed the tower. They tend to be a bit more cautious than they need to be. Anyway, what's the windsock there? Ooh, pretty stiff crosswind to be honest, but I think we'll be okay. Now we'll see if I can put on a decent showing when it comes to landing the Lancaster. Probably not, actually. Ooh, flare, flare! Ooh, that was a bounce. Sorry, the runway snuck up on me a little bit there. Okay. There, now we're down. Except she bounced again. Ugh. Okay. Oh, jeez, I wish they would shut up. Okay, we're slowed down. As soon as we're slowed down, I'll just vacate left into the grass. It's kind of where we're heading anyway. Yeah. Get clear, and really, I'll just find a spot to park up just short of the taxiway. I'm not super keen on necessarily taxiing back to exactly where we started, in part because I probably wouldn't be able to find it. I'm going to block the taxiway, aren't I? The brakes are pretty cheese-like. Okay, I'll cross over the taxiway so we don't block it. How about? Okay, that'll do. Now just stop and shut down. Come on. Bring the flaps up. Shut down the engines. Ooh, we're actually not quite stopped yet. Put the lights off now that we're vacated. And that's going to be about it. We made it over to Germany and back without a scratch. I didn't see very much flak over the target, but that doesn't necessarily mean they weren't shooting. The track may reveal a little bit more about that when I go to watch it. But anyway, this has been tedious at times, but also fun at times. I may do more missions in the Lancaster again. It was a nice mission to do to mark the occasion, as it were. And, well, I've been itching to fly this for a long time. Well, let's just say on a personal level, the first World War II airplane I ever saw was the Lancaster on display at the Bomber Command Museum of Canada in Nanton, Alberta, so I have a certain affection for the thing. Anyway, what I might do is end the mission to see if we're credited with the destruction of anything, but I don't think we are. It's because we just bombed buildings in the city, which weren't like mission objects or anything, so not really much more to say about that, other than I hope the mission has been reasonably enjoyable. Toodles.